August 20th meeting of the 2019 meeting of the North Andover Planning Board. So why don't we get Mr. Preston on? Aaron, can you hear us yet? Yes. Aaron, where are you?
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us, Aaron? Yes? Sound? No. Not looking good.
If you can hear me, I can't hear you.
We can hear you now.
Aaron, can you hear us at all?
We just had it all working.
It was perfect. Well, we heard that.
I'm never doing that.
Okay, well, you guys are gonna work on that. Well, let's do some stuff that we don't necessarily
Well,
need Aaron for.
I can hear you now.
Okay, great,
all right.
great. Where are you, Aaron?
Washington, D.C.
All right, so the chair finds that that is a hardship in making it to North Andover. And so, going to participate remotely, and now you can hear us and see, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so all votes tonight will be made by roll call vote, but Aaron is participating as a full member today. Okay, great. First order of business, we have a couple of hearings that are being continued, as well as a request by 4 High Street, I believe, to continue the time, extend the time for making a decision on the subdivision. Correct, Monica?
Correct.
All right, so why don't we do the subdivision extension request first?
Okay, so we've received a definitive subdivision extension from RCG Westmill NA LLC for 4 High Street. They're asking to allow the planning board more time. So they have agreed to an extension to October the 15th.
Okay. I think that's a good idea. I don't think we'll have a decision for next week, which is our next meeting's the beginning of September, for which we would need it. I think we maybe we'll have one for October 15th. I can't guarantee that either, but I think we need to extend it.
So,
Exactly.
I make a motion to accept the extension of the time to make a decision on the definitive subdivision until October 15th.
All right.
Second.
All in favor? Roll call.
I, John Simon, yes.
Aaron Preston, yes.
I also say yes.
Kate Barney is a yes.
Okay, so that is accepted. Thank you very much. Can we do the continuation of the hearings for 4 High Street and 4 High Street?
Yes, so we've received a request from Avalon Bay asking for continuance of the definitive master plan special permit and subdivision from today until the September 3rd. So the next time would be September 3rd. And they've issued that via email.
Okay, and again, the reason we're looking for an extension or there's an extension on that one as well as the next one is that we don't have a couple of board members today. If anyone misses more than one meeting, then they can't vote on it. These may continue, and we don't want to risk not being able to actually vote on these down the line. So I think that's a very good idea. So can I get a motion to continue 4 High Street's hearings until September 3rd?
So moved.
Okay, we get a second, John?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
John Simon, yes.
Aaron Preston, yes.
I vote yes.
Kate Barney is a yes.
Okay, so 4 High Street special permits, both meetings are continued until September 3rd, continued public hearings. 701 Salem Street, same situation, Monica?
Yes, again, that was a request submitted via email asking for continuance to the September 3rd meeting.
So,
So moved.
move.
Second.
Okay, all in favor to continue
John
701 Salem Street till September 3rd?
John Simon, yes.
Aaron Preston, yes.
I vote yes.
Kate Bernese, yes.
Okay, so those are all continued until September 3rd. Okay, great. We're going to jump back up to the top of the agenda right now. 31, actually, we're just doing 4 High Streets. Let's stay with that. 4 High Street RCG West Mill NA LLC, request to release performance guarantee bonds totaling $25,000. Do you want to do 21 High Street at the same time? Or should those be separate?
Let's do them separately.
Okay. All right, 4 High Street, request to release performance bond. You want
So
to
I'll
just tell
give you a
us?
little update.
Yep.
So 2 permits were issued, one for the center lot in 2016, the other for building demo and parking lot reorientation in 2015. There was a redesign of rain gardens, which that redesign took place with the assistance of conservation. Conservation has an outstanding certificate of occupancy on this. Right now, they were going to meet last week, but they didn't have a quorum. So this has been moved to their meeting on the 28th. Other than that, it looks like the other issues have been taken care of. However, since there's a COC outstanding, planning is recommending that if you do release the bonds, it's with the condition that conservation issues their certificate of occupancy, just to ensure that the rain gardens.
Certificate of compliance?
Yes.
Okay. And what happens if they don't?
Then you're not releasing the bond until they're in compliance.
Okay, so upon conservation, so can release it upon conservation's issuing of the certificate?
Yes.
Okay.
That's fine, so moved. Yeah, release all remaining bond on this.
Upon certificate from Conservation Commission, okay?
Second.
All in favor?
John Simon, yes?
Aaron Preston, yes.
Yes?
Kate Bernese, yes.
Okay, great, that's released upon that condition. 21 High Street, request to release performance guaranteed bonds totaling $20,000.
Okay, so 2 permits were issued, one in 2008, the other in 2007. They were for the total development, which took place in 2 stages. All other conditions have been met. We have their as-built, and we have their letter of compliance from the engineer, so there's no outstanding issues there.
Okay. Got a motion to release the funds?
Yes, release all remaining bonds, so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
John Simon, yes?
Aaron Preston, yes.
Yes?
Kate Bernese, yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. 31 Johnson Street,
Johnson Circle.
Johnson Circle,
Circle.
thank you. I'm sorry, I made your circle into a street. Request to release $4,000 performance guarantee bond.
So yes, a watershed special permit was issued in October of 2018 to allow for the construction of a deck and sunroom within the non-disturbance and non-discharge zone. In the spring, the applicant requested a modification to the permit to remove a condition requiring an as-built plan. However, there was still a condition for a letter of compliance from an engineer. The applicant did receive a letter from a different engineer for the project. The only thing at the time when he issued it was in June. He was waiting for the grass to grow, and that has been established. So planning is recommending a release of the $4,000 bond.
Okay. Sounds good to me. Anybody else?
So I make a motion to release the remaining bond, 131 Johnson Circle.
Second.
All in favor?
John Simon, yes?
Aaron Preston, yes.
Yes?
Kate Bernese, yes.
All right. Bond money will be released.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, let's do continued public hearing, 62 Sail Way.
Okay.
And after that, we'll do the new public hearing, 75 Coachman's, and then we'll do the senior center, Sutton Street.
All right.
And, well, maybe we'll do the discussion items probably before that, so senior center will probably do last.
Okay, so in your packet is a red line version of a decision, which I sent you over the weekend. I changed some minor things in C, just capitals and things like that. Number 7, which is typically in the decisions, for some reason that fell off, so I added that back in, and that just states that the project's located in an environmentally sensitive area, which is the watershed. Condition 8, it looks like I need to do some wordsmithing there. I don't know if you've reviewed it, but definitely if there's anything else missing, please let me know. Also, during the last meeting, it was, an operation and maintenance plan was not included. That has since been submitted.
Do you want to remind us what we were doing here?
Oh.
Which, this was the swimming pool, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, this was to allow for the construction of an in-ground swimming pool and paver patio within the non-discharge buffer zone within the watershed protection district. Kind of got ahead of myself, sorry.
When we were here last, were there any outstanding stormwater or any other issues?
No, all issues were satisfied at that time.
What was the plan that they submitted since then, you said?
It was the operation and maintenance plan for the pool itself.
Okay.
Anything to add since the last time we were here?
No, I think Monica summed it up
Okay.
quite well. The O&M was modified. It was originally submitted just for the infiltration trench that was around the patio. Now includes dewatering if the need arises, or drawdown for the pool. Normal drawdown would be pumped into a separate dry well or into the existing rooftop infiltration system. If the pool had to be emptied all at once for whatever reason, it would be pumped into a truck and removed from site. And then we added a little blurb about chemicals being stored either in the shed or in the garage, in accordance with the manufacturer's recommendations.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments before we close the public hearing, and then we can review the,
Is $2,000 the standard bond that we,
Typically for this type of project.
yeah?
Did conservation chime in on the adequacy of the operations and maintenance plan? And what is the planning department's take on that document?
The document, the operation and maintenance plan covered actually some of the typical items that you see in pools in terms of water, dewatering, and storage of chemicals, things like that. So they hit everything on there. This was outside of the 100-foot buffer for conservation. They did review it, and they had no concerns.
Thank you.
what's this condition about open burning? Is that,
That's one of the standard ones that you see in every condition. Basically, it just
For
says
the pool.
you can't do that.
oh,
I
So
don't
it's in
think we'll
general,
have
all the general conditions are the same in every
Okay.
decision.
okay.
So hopefully there won't be open burning for the pool.
I'm just curious with the pool, why there might be.
So if that's the case, then I'll make a motion to close the public hearing related to the pool at 62 Sail Way.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. John Simons, yes.
Aaron Preston, yes.
Yes.
Kate Barnese, yes.
Okay, so the public hearing is now closed. We'll review the decision. And you've had a chance to review the decision, no issues?
We reviewed it, we had some minor edits.
And those have been those have been incorporated?
It has.
Okay, great.
I would like to change condition number 8, just because I kind of had a little,
Yeah?
got a little carried away there. I'd write on the last line, which is related to the applicant received a variance from the North Andover Zoning Board of Appeals. I'd like to, I have some extra wordage there, so it should read, the applicant received a variance from the North Andover Zoning Board of Appeals on June 11th, 2019.
Okay.
You might say something in the finding of facts, because you did address the infiltration trench, which I think was good, is that there is a robust operations and maintenance plan. You know, it's just yet another thing. I think it's important that on these, watershed permits, we put everything that we find that's compelling there, so.
Of course. So I'll add that the applicant submitted a operations and maintenance
Yeah,
plan.
something to that effect,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so if we get a motion to approve the watershed special permit as amended?
So moved.
Reading slow tonight. But
Okay.
they get enough sleep.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. John, are you ready?
Yeah, fine.
Okay, you want to give us your
John
vote?
Simons, yes?
Aaron Preston, yes.
Yes.
Kate Bernese, yes.
Okay, approved.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's do,
Thank you, Monica.
let's do 75 Coachman's Lane. New public hearing, 75 Coachman's Lane, Amanda and Thomas Lau? Lowe? Okay, great, thank you. Application for watershed special permit under Part 5 Watershed Protection District and Section 195, 10.7 of the North Andover zoning bylaw. Project involves the removal of a deck and patio and construction of a new screen porch, deck, and patio within the non-discharge buffer zone. The project is located within the residential 1 R1 zoning district. All right, Monica, want to tell us what we're here for, and then we'll turn to the applicants.
Yes. So again, this is an application for a watershed special permit under Part 5 of the Watershed Special Protection District and Section 195, 10.7 of the North Andover zoning bylaw. The project involves the removing of a deck and patio and construction of a new screen porch, deck, and patio within the non-discharge buffer zone within the R1 zoning district. This has been sent out for department review. Conservation confirmed that the work was outside of the 100-foot buffer. Health had no concerns. Police had no concerns. DPW had no concerns. And the stormwater peer review was conducted by DPW. They had a conversation with the project applicant, and revisions were made in accordance with that discussion, so they no longer have any concerns. So I'll put up the
Great.
plan.
So is there anything from a peer review perspective outstanding?
No, engineering had that conversation. The revised plan was submitted yesterday. I'll put that up as soon as I can get this to work. There's also a poster board of it.
Okay,
Good evening, Steve Sawyer, Design Consultants, Inc. I'm here with Amanda Lowe, the property owner, and Justin White of Bayberry and Company. He's the design-build contractor for the project. So the proposal at hand here is to remove a deck and a patio in the rear and build a small enclosed three-season porch addition. That porch addition will actually be on helical piles. You can see the detail here. Basically, it's a corkscrew. You screw it into the ground, so it minimizes the infiltration and ground disturbance. So those are the foundation for it versus a poured concrete footing. The patio itself, there's a deck between the screen porch or the three-season porch and the patio. The patio area will all be permeable pavers. So the net result is a reduction in permeable surface. So that's an important note of this project. We want to simplify and do low-impact techniques. The patio material, I believe, is going to be Goshen stone it's sort of like a rice stone joint, open rice stone joint, so the water will flow freely between the joints with an aggregate base. One of the comments from the engineer, from John Borghese, was one of the changes was to change the note regarding remove any organic or the A and B layer material below the permeable patio down to the C layer non-organic material. and backfill with gravel is required. So it's a fairly straightforward project, low-impact design. The access would be through the driveway and around the right side of the garage. There was questions regarding flood zone here. This building was actually part of a LOMA. There was a LOMA issued for this building, so it's out of the flood zone. We're out of that map flood zone in that area. There's no elevation associated with it, but I believe in a neighboring property, they're at 163, and there was an issue, a LOMA issued for that elevation, the lowest adjacent grade of 163. We're actually up at about 169 NAVD 88. So that's about it. It's a fairly straightforward, simple project here. We're in the back of basically in the back of the house. There's no disturbance in the front. So any of the sheet flow running across, you really don't have any disturb here in the front that would have an opportunity to run across Coachman's Lane. That's basically it, and I'll take any questions from the board.
So can you tell me where the edge of the wetland is? I'm just trying to, I know there's supposed to be a line someplace.
Yeah, so the edge of the wetlands runs about, it's probably about 10 feet off the edge of the road. We basically held to be, Hughes Environmental walked the area, and just to be conservative, we just offset the line from the down gradient edge of this side of the road. So this 100 foot.
Wetland is on the
Yeah.
other side of the road.
It's on the other side of the road here, yes.
Which begs the question of how the road got built to begin with, but that's a
Well,
different
that was
story.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was even before my time, by the way, so.
Yeah, so this is a conservative line. This 100-foot buffer may be back about 10 feet, and the outer buffer may be back about 10 feet, but we're square in the middle of it, from the inner to the outer.
Now, do you have to do any cutting and filling, or is it completely flat, basically?
There'll be a little bit of filling, I believe, in this patio area, slight filling underneath the patio.
Very
Minimal, and that'll be all where it's, that's suitable because of the fact, well, it gives you additional material for the water to infiltrate, and that'll be a permeable surface.
Got it, okay.
Yeah.
And on the screen porch sunroom, did you say that you're gonna have dry wells, or what did you?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, so there's gonna be around this edge and this edge, there'll be a 4-foot wide, basically a 4-foot wide drip edge, with some river run stone, some probably 1.5, 3-inch river run stone. Very shallow, we're only doing it about 4 inches deep, with filter fabric underneath. So it'll overhang, it'll extend beyond the wall to the drip line, but then extend underneath about 3 feet underneath the building. So you have this 4-foot strip where the drip line will just drip into, be held, and infiltrate. It's just an enhanced, we are reducing the impervious surface, but we figured it would be an improvement.
You guys don't have any pictures of what it looks like now?
I do not.
So that generally that would be helpful in what you're proposing, just so we get a better sense of it. What's in the backyard? There's I'm just looking at the Google map.
Currently, there is a deck in place. This would just replace the deck that is currently slanting.
Okay, right, so
So
that's
to
helpful,
improve the
that's
deck.
just helpful for us to see.
So this would just be in place of what is actually there now. So
Right.
there's already a physical deck in place.
Is there like a pool or inflatable?
There was when we moved in, it
Okay.
was an Intex pool that we immediately took down.
Okay, all right, that's still on the Google map. That looks weird.
Yeah, having a few pictures just to put in the file is actually helpful, if you have any.
Yeah, just,
I
it's,
wasn't aware of that before.
Yeah.
no, it's not something that we can still go forward with all this. It's just, for some of us, it's these drawings are more helpful. For some of us, seeing a picture of, okay, you have a deck there, and now this is what we're putting, and it's going over that, is easier for us to
So if you're looking
conceptualize.
at current photos, we purchased the house 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And there are photos online, minus the pool, and add some stairs.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's,
I can always go out to the site and.
No, this one should be fine. It's just helpful in general. Okay. I don't have any question. I like that you're not cutting on trees. It looks like there are trees kind of surrounding the house, but not in that area. So I think that's good, especially if you don't need any trees cut down to get in and out. That's very good. No, I don't have anything else. Anybody?
Fine.
Okay. So next steps.
So the board typically asks me to prepare a decision for the next
Alright.
meeting, and that's that.
So that's what we'll do. So we'll continue this to September 3rd. At that point, we'll have a draft decision, hopefully a couple days before that. You can take a look at that, and then we'll vote on September 3rd. And doesn't appear that there should be any issues. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
great. Okay, let's do the discussion items. 177 Salem Street, Ridgewood Cemetery, request for a watershed special permit to allow for the rehabilitation of the hearse house. Hi.
Good evening. I'm Jim LaFawn, 329 Osgood Street. I'm also on the Board of Trustees and President of the Board for the Ridgewood Cemetery Association.
Great. Okay, Jim, what are we here for today?
Well, I guess technically we are looking for a waiver of the special permit or a special permit for rehabilitation of what we call the hearse house at Ridgewood Cemetery. The hearse house is a historic building, photographs on the screen. It was, don't know the actual age, and it has been added on to a few times. But several years ago, the cemetery in whole was placed on the National Historic Register. And we are, as you can see from the plant load on the roof, there's a lot of issues with the building, structural issues, rot, deterioration, and before we lose it completely, we want to rehabilitate it, which is basically going to involve lifting it up in place, digging, probably mostly hand digging, because we are fairly close to wetlands, hand digging a trench for a foundation, and then once that's done, put back down and reconstructed.
So you're gonna, Jim, pick it up and like move it 30 or 40 feet, or
Joe is more involved with that, and I don't think we're going to move it. I think we're going to do it right there.
just lift it up?
That's
Oh, I
why
see.
there's no floor in it. It's ground, so when you pick it up, it will be, the idea was to dig it from inside the building. That's why there won't be much disruption, we feel. There's been erosion control in place for, I think, well over a year now, because, we've been trying to get this project off. This project was funded through a community preservation grant 2 years ago, 2 years ago. And again, because of the issues in trying to lift the building and dig the foundation without ruining it, and finding the right people to do that, we have not gotten off the ground until now. But we pretty much immediately put in the erosion control.
Yeah, Conservation actually issued a negative determination of applicability in April of last year. Planning was not aware of the project until maybe about a week ago when I visited the site with Conservation. We saw that the hearse house was located within 25 feet of the bank of a stream, so we just want to make sure that the planning board was aware of the project.
Okay, so what action do we need to take?
Well, they're looking for a waiver, so you have to decide if this meets the criteria of the waiver
Okay. A waiver of the watershed
special permit.
special permit? Okay, so I understand that they're lifting up the building, filling in the foundation, not expanding anything, not disturbing the topography, and conservation doesn't have any concerns, because it's,
Just to add, there is no plumbing or sewage or anything in this building either.
You're raising it up, you're not doing any grading around the side.
There's no topography.
There's no topography change. We may put in a concrete floor.
For the building itself. Or the end.
Yes, right, rather than just a dirt floor.
Okay.
We do store things in there. That's about it now. we may have, in the future, other plans for it, but nothing right now. But if we don't save the building, it's just gonna cave in.
So this waiver would allow you to do what you're planning now. If you're gonna come back, if you can do future alterations, changes.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be
we'll-
much
we'll
in
come
that
back.
regard. Like I said, we're planning on fixing it up so it's in great shape and it's beautiful, as beautiful as it probably was in its heyday. And then, again, the concrete floor, just so that the equipment we store in there is safer.
Seems to make sense to me for a waiver. Not as sure, I mean, a full hearing, I'm not sure anything else we'd get out of it.
Not gonna get anything.
There's no abutters, really.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the big thing is you guys take very careful, I mean,
Right.
excruciating care. You used to go to conservation commissions.
Yeah, well, we are, and I apologize, again, I'm not as up on current regulations as we should, but we have been talking with conservation, with Jennifer Hughes, who's gone now, but it didn't quite dawn on me that we were.
Yeah, but I mean, what's interesting about this is if there's a negative determination, that says to me that probably the wetland there, maybe it's only a isolated wetland, I don't know, but I mean,
No, it's a stream.
Yeah, but when the cemetery was, of course, created in around 1850 is when it began. There's a stone wall that must have been built when they delineated the cemetery from, the farmland that was sold to the association. Remember, we were part of Andover at the time. It was called the Andover Cemetery. So there's a very defined stone wall there, and on our side of the stone wall, the land was filled a little bit, or must have been. I don't think it was just that perfectly flat naturally. So I think maybe, I can't put words in her mouth, but maybe she felt that stone wall is such a delineation of the wetland that we could easily, and we do think we can easily do what we're doing without any runoff, without any impact.
Well, that's what the negative determination says, that by lifting it up and putting in a foundation, there's not
Right.
going to be any impact, so.
And she did require at the time that we, no material would be stored on site, no fill, no concrete, nothing. So everything will be stored in we have well away from wetlands, we have a maintenance yard, a work yard where we store things, but it's only 60 acres of cemetery, so it's easy to move stuff back and forth, so we have no problem with that.
Okay.
So, yeah, okay with that. So I would make a motion to waive a watershed special permit requirement in this matter of Richmond Cemetery.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye, John Simons?
Aaron Preston, aye.
Yes?
Kate Bernese, yes.
All right, keep up the good work, gentlemen. Approved.
Thank you very much.
All right, 0, Great Pond Road, Lot 3, Sue Papalia, common driveway permit. Anyone here to speak on that one?
She's not here yet.
All right, so we'll put that to the back, that's fine. Kelsey Lane off Mollytown, LRC Builders LLC, road request for finding of a minor modification. Hello.
Hello. I'm Dave Ennis, LRC Builders. This is my father, Bob Ennis. We're building on Mollytown Road, which is Lot 2 and Lot 3, Kelsey Lane,
Okay.
Circle rather. We're here for a minor modification to the condition number 7.
Okay, so I looked at this. So Monica, when was this permit issued?
So this permit was initially issued in
Or
2009.
So this was a subdivision approval, actually, right?
Exactly.
Subdivision approval, 2009. One of the conditions is,
It was requiring sprinklers.
okay, and this was, okay. The homes built on lots 2 and 3 must be equipped with a home sprinkler system that will be installed according to current building code standards. Sprinkler systems must be inspected and approved by the North Andover Fire Department. Now, I see in correspondence from the fire department that the codes don't require sprinklers. So I guess, John, I'd like to get your
Yeah,
input.
I mean, I think some people are being a little bit disingenuous. The former fire chief, he wanted us to put him in all the time.
So that's what I'm trying to figure out,
Yeah,
because normally
what we did is
residential.
we generally didn't do it. I'd have to look at the map. I think there was a reason why we did it in those 2 lots, because I think they probably have less access than the other lots. And like in cases of common driveways, where a lot is built off the street, we required them. I mean, you could argue that maybe we shouldn't, but in fact we do, and we have always. So let's take a look at this.
I'll bring up the plan.
So that's what I want to figure. So, I mean, generally now, the fire codes, as I understand them, not an expert, don't require sprinklers for individual,
And they don't,
Units.
and they didn't even then.
right, multifamilies, yes.
Yeah, right, but see,
But it was because of either when you're doing a subdivision, the access, or if they're further in
for
the back,
some
or.
reason, but I mean, I know we put that in because Bill Dolan thought it was important to do. So to come back now when it's in the condition of the decision and say, I don't want to do it, it's, yeah.
Yeah, the issue, I mean, I get the expense issue, is fire saying that they're okay with it. So
Well, yeah, but I mean.
that's where I'm trying to wear.
Did any of are those the only 2 houses in the,
So there's a subdivision, and then this is like I would call it a secondary subdivision with 2 lots off to the side, so.
yeah, right, so that was the reason why we did that.
Right.
And so, I mean, I'm not, in the end, I think the only reason why we did it is because the fire chief at the time wanted us to do it, but it is our decision. I'm not real keen on changing our mind. I mean, this is out there in the open.
Can you guys tell us about these 2 houses, about where they are, what's there,
Yeah,
and why you're looking to change the decision?
well, one of those 2 houses, they come off of Mollytown Road. They were, they're exactly what that plan looks like. The right across the street, there is a fire hydrant. However, the reason why these 2, we got a building permit, and we applied for a building permit back in August 2018. During that, we went to the fire prevention lieutenant, and we discussed this with him, and he said that because of the current building codes, we would not be required to put sprinkler systems in these 2 houses. And he then approved our building permit. I also, in correspondence with him after that meeting, I did, in the Viewpoint portal, I did ask him if there was anything else needed for the permit of the sign-off. And it was, because it was to be built according to the current building code standards, we accepted that as covering that condition. These houses are built. They have been.
That makes it a little different story. Now, see, I thought maybe you were going.
These houses, we have gone through a midpoint inspection back in December with the fire prevention lieutenant. He approved it. We went through a final inspection. He approved it. We're currently trying to get our occupancy permit.
That was when planning discovered that.
Yeah, I mean.
And the occupancy.
Given what you said, you relied on the best expert advice. I don't have a problem under those circumstances waiving it, because it's not like you tried to avoid it. You went, you asked them, and you did exactly as they told you to do. So I don't see us, at this point, forcing them to put the thing in, have any.
No, I agree. I mean, I think, and most residential single families won't. I'm just wondering how we avoid this problem in the future.
Yes, and we have a new fire prevention lieutenant, and we've had this conversation as to how we alert them or keep this in this, decision requirements in the system. So typically what we do is when a building permit is applied for in our Viewpoint system, which is the digital system, I upload the document. There has to be a better way to do this. So at least every time I get a decision, I forward that to the current fire officer.
Okay.
there's got to be a better way
Yeah, I mean,
to handle this.
I don't think we have that many of them, and you could make an argument that in some cases, there's actually a compelling reason, and this was, as I said, I think our former fire chief was, we sometimes didn't want to do it, and he insisted we do it. I mean, it's maybe worth having a conversation with them sometime, even have them come in here and just talk conceptually about it.
I'd say if we do.
About whether we want to do it
Right.
under any circumstances or not.
And if we do, going forward, if we make a decision that has something like that, that's gonna bind them on something like that, and another department has to check it off, we should send that decision to, say, building and say, hey, please note, don't issue a certificate of occupancy without those
Exactly.
alarms. If it's, something like that, we're only gonna put in, at least going forward, if it's really important, or if we
Really
make a
important.
finding.
And maybe, we probably should put something in our planning board rules and regulations addressing the circumstance and.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Do it, so.
Right,
Okay.
I think I had the opportunity to kind of re-educate, the current fire prevention officer is a new person.
Okay.
So we've talked about in terms of that the planning board's decisions are binding, and that if there are agreements, then number one, they need to put it in writing, but number two, that has to go before, 1 and 2 might be opposite, but they have to be approved by the planning board. They can't be administrative, so it's.
Okay.
That was one of the lapses. I think when they received the verbal agreement, there should have been an understanding that now you have to go back before planning. So we weren't made aware of this until this certificate of occupancy was issued.
Okay, so.
But I'm okay with, like in this circumstance, considering this a minor modification and waiving the requirement.
Yeah, I am too. Okay, so can we get a vote to consider, so what's the modification gonna be? Let's,
So
we're
there's
gonna
two-
amend, go
Right,
ahead.
there's 2 houses that were constructed, so what I'd like to suggest is making sure that your modification covers both.
So it's just the homes built on lots 2 and 3, correct?
Yes, and they have,
So number 7 should read, the homes built on lots 2 and 3 must be equipped with fire safety or fire suppression equipment in accordance with the current building and fire code standards.
let me pull up his letter just to make sure we cover that, because I want to make sure that we're in line with what they would like.
In compliance with respect to fire protection systems required for occupancy by the Residential Building Code 7080 CMR.
Yes.
So let's say, so let's use that language.
Hey, everyone, I have a quick question. Does that street, does it have a hydrant coverage?
Directly across the street is a hydrant.
Great, thank you.
So I'd say for the reasons that they did speak with fire prevention, were told that they did not need sprinklers. The homes are already built, and there is a hydrant across the way that this can be.
And it's in compliance.
And it's otherwise, and it is in compliance with the building code, that this can be considered a minor modification. We'll modify condition 7 to say that building, the homes on lots 2 and 3 will be in compliance with respect to fire protection systems required for occupancy by the Residential Building Code 780 CMR.
Okay.
Okay, so that's just right out of the second paragraph of Lieutenant Barron's letter.
I will use that language
Okay.
in the modification.
That makes sense for you, gentlemen?
Yes.
Okay. All right, can we get a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
John Simon, yes.
Aaron Preston, yes.
Yes.
Kate Barnese, yes.
Okay, approved.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Monica.
All right. Okay. Senior Center, 1 Story Drive, 477 Sutton Street, 505 Sutton Street, 0 Sutton Street, Town of North Andover. Continued public hearing application for special permit, site plan review, shared common driveway, parking on a separate lot, satellite parking, under Chapter 195, Article 8, Part 3, Section 195-2.2, Section 21, and Section 195, 8.8, D4B of the Town of North Andover zoning bylaw, to allow for construction of a two-story, 13,500 square foot GFA senior center with associated amenities, parking, stormwater management facilities, landscaping, signage, and other improvements, B2R4 districts. 505 Sutton Street redevelopment LLC application for special permit, site plan review, multifamily housing, common driveway, modification of landscaping requirements for off-street parking, reduction in parking and construction of a new building exceeding 2,000 square feet, under Section 195 4.80, 195 2.2, 195 8.8, 195 8.10 of the North Andover zoning bylaw and Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 9, to allow for the construction of 3 multi-story buildings with associated parking, stormwater management facilities, landscaping, signage, and other site improvements, B2 zoning district. Okay. Hi. Where are we today?
So from the senior center side, I am Jean Enright, interim director of community and economic development. Since the last meeting, I believe we've had a site walk. I don't think we've met since the site walk. I think Eric will speak to a lot of the discussion at the site walk tonight. From the senior center side, there's been very little change to the site plan. The one change that is displayed today is the exit onto Surrey Drive. There's been a revision to the geometry, which kind of curves it to a right-hand turn only. That was done to further prohibit any potential left-hand turn. So as you recall, that is a right-hand turn only. There'll be a stop sign. It's an exit only, not an entrance. So that, from a site plan perspective, that was really the only modification. We have gone through department review. All comments have been responded to. The DPW has a couple minor plan changes that are going to be updated on the next plan set, but we didn't go through one at a time changes. We'll just submit a final change for the next meeting. The civil review, same thing, just some minor tweaks that need to be made that will be satisfied at the next meeting. Stormwater review is still outstanding, so the engineering team is addressing the peer review comments for that. He's reworking some of the design, but is confident that, again, it'll be all resolved in the next plan set, ready for September 3rd.
So, would,
Sorry.
good.
Does this plan show that driveway?
Yep.
Or is it, it looks. Oh, okay, I'm looking in the wrong spot, thank you.
With me tonight is John Catlin, who's the project architect, so if you have any questions for John as well.
I actually just want to have a little discussion about Surrey Street, but and it's going to be outside of actually what we can do, but I just want to talk about it anyway. So for the senior center portion, timeline, we'll have all these revisions done by the next meeting.
I anticipate by the 3rd, yes.
Okay, and so potential for the board to discuss at that time and either vote then or vote at the next meeting. What do you think, Jim?
Well, I mean, we had anticipated that the decisions would be made at the same time. I mean, it really is contingent on
Okay.
the multifamily.
But I'm just asking where this one would be ready, and then we'll get to that one. Assume that one will be pretty much ready at that point whenever we're done with the,
I have certainly asked for that. So it's
Multifamily.
really just satisfying the final peer reviews unless you have any, anything you raised tonight. I will say there was one comment from the DPW in their review that's in your packet tonight. They had 3 comments. 2 and 3 were just tweaks to the plan. Comment 1 was, our town engineer prefers circulation both back out onto the common driveway as well as Surrey. We are in favor of this circulation. We think it's simpler, easily understood. Sightline distances, we had the traffic engineer look at that. He does not have concerns for sightline of Surrey Drive onto Sutton. Just to speak to his comment, it's a preference that he has.
okay.
So-
So that's
So-
something that's deferred to the board to determine, which way you want to go.
Right. So what, I mean, I think one of the things I've been thinking about, especially after the site visit, is that traffic onto Surrey with people turning right off of Sutton Street, and also the traffic coming. I'm just thinking, I wonder if it would make sense to have it either be to Surrey one way, whether that would help, or either one way after. it seems like there's going to be, so the traffic's all going to be coming out this way. I'm not sure if we necessarily need people coming back in, and that way, if it's one way, then you're definitely not going to take a left, right? If it's one way, and everything would just flow back onto Sutton. Again, we can't condition that, but I'm just wondering if that's something that DPW could comment on, I'm just wondering, it might just be helpful in the
To
grand
make
scheme
the
of things.
entire length of Surrey one way?
Either that or from the senior center on,
Well,
so you can, and I'm not sure, that's
Then
it.
by default, you're making it one way.
You can make the whole
Yeah.
thing one way by doing that.
Right.
You can't get in on that side.
It was just something I was thinking about, just because one of the concerns, the biggest concern was cutting through and people going through on both sides. If that would help. I don't know. Again,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Just thought, okay.
Well, if you'd like a comment on that, and again, that would be the entire roadway you're talking about, or?
That's what I was trying to talk through. I'm not sure yet.
Again, the traffic from the senior center is really limited to 8:30 arrival, pretty much done by 4:30. There are occasional fitness class at night and on Saturday mornings, but it's not an overwhelming amount, I would say. It's really staggered by hour programming.
I did walk the property, but by myself. And can you, this will help me get acclimated a little bit better. The houses or the additional lots where there's existing houses are going to be taken down, where are they exactly, and where is the existing KC?
Can you bring up the existing condition plan?
Yes.
So the existing condition plan, you'll see one house is right at the corner of Surrey and Sutton. The driveway actually exits onto Surrey Drive for the first corner house. And the next one is approximately where, when you look at the senior center building, that left-hand portion. Can you point to that? Yeah.
Yeah,
So this is the existing 1 and 3, sorry, the house sits in the middle.
yeah.
The next house sits in here. This was part of the Knights, but the Knights building was actually much further over.
Okay, yeah, the building is over further.
So you've got
Yeah.
the Knights is probably
Okay,
almost
yeah,
off the map
okay.
there.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
So the curb cuts on Sutton Street actually go from 3 to 2 in this design,
Yeah.
because the driveway for 1 Surrey Drive is onto Surrey.
Okay. Anyone else have questions about the senior center portion? Okay, so,
Eric Loth from Sutton Street Redevelopment. Thanks for being here on a Tuesday night in the summer. So we'll probably pick up a little bit of the senior center too. One of the things, we've been trying to answer some of the questions from the zoning board as well as from your board. One of the questions we had is, can we pick up the traffic? We had done a traffic study just on the night site. And subsequently, I think we brought numbers here, but we had had our traffic engineer look at the access out onto Surrey and then the intersection at Sutton Street. So if we want to give him, it's probably a quick overview. If you want to hear that as well, it might answer some more questions. The other thing we did is during the site walk, a lot of the questions, rightly so, we're focusing on the back of the lot. What's the view going to be like from the neighbors' houses? What's the view going to be like? So we did, after taking some pictures, we have some graphics there, and we asked our landscape architect to go back and try to fill in as much as he could, plant bigger trees. I think a lot of times you'll see these smaller caliper trees in new developments. I said, well, how big can you reasonably put it in and it'll survive? And so we asked him to maximize those, put more in. So if we want to do traffic, and then we can go into the landscape architecture and then show you some of the pictures that probably everybody would like to see of what we assume it's probably going to look like now, and then they advanced the proposed growth of the trees in 5 years. So there's a set of pictures, what it looks like now, what it'll look like when it's built, and what it'll look like in 5 years.
yeah. Okay, that sounds good.
So Giles Ham is our traffic architect, our traffic engineer. He can.
Good evening, I'm Giles Ham with Vanessa Associates. So, as Eric had indicated, we had done some traffic work for the senior center. We've done some traffic counts and actually measured delays at Surrey Drive exiting onto Sutton Street. So we've did all that information. Information provided by the senior center, there'll really be very little traffic during the morning peak hour that's out there. So there'll be very little traffic there at all. If they're just getting going, maybe some employees coming in. In the afternoon peak hour, we conservatively estimated anywhere maybe 30 to 45 trips. It was very conservatively estimated. It really depends upon their functional scheduling of their events, but we think that's really overstated. In terms of site distance, we looked at site distance at both the driveway onto Surrey Drive and then Surrey Drive at Sutton Street. If you look at Surrey Drive at Sutton Street today, looking to the right, there's some trees and vegetation there that somewhat obscures the site. You kind of see through them. But as part of this development, the trees and vegetation will be cleared, so the site distance will be much better. So we have federal and state standards we look at for site distance, and not to get the law to it, but we measure 14.5 feet back from the edge of travel way. We look in each direction from the height of the eye, 3.5 feet to 3.5 feet, and there are certain criteria you need to meet in terms of the speeds that are out there, which are 35 miles an hour. We need 250 feet, so we meet that criteria
Looking to
for a
the right?
safe location. Absolutely, yeah. Like I said, today, you kind of see through some vegetation, and it'll be cleared as part of the project itself. So,
What about looking left towards Main Street? There's a tree there that really hangs over and does make sightlines difficult.
right, but you got to. It's measured back from the edge of the shoulder line. So there's a shoulder there, and when you measure back, you can see plenty of distance looking to the left. It's actually more difficult to the right today.
Okay. Do we know who owns that tree? Because I know I couldn't see anything when I was coming.
So I walked the trees with the tree warden for the
Yeah.
DPW, and we identified a number of trees that are either dead, declining, weeds living.
We have that in our
did that as well, yeah, so.
No,
So
in the
it's-
front, okay, because
Yep.
that one on Surrey too, on the left-hand side, like
On the
hangs
left
over.
hand, sorry, that,
I didn't know if that was a public tree or if that was.
it is a town tree, and we've talked to the DPW about that as well.
Okay,
So,
good.
yep, that could be cleared.
Okay. that
It's
would be
just
good.
kind of scrub, brush,
Yeah,
growing
and-
out, yep.
It doesn't seem like a regular project.
Yep.
Okay.
And then just quickly, there were some peer review comments on the traffic study done for the project from your consultant TEC, and we provided responses to all those comments. Comments were very minor in nature, don't affect any of the conclusions or recommendations, but they had to do with we updated some accident data. We looked at counts were done when school was in session, but seniors were out, I think, so it's really not a significant change there. They asked us to support the 1% growth rate, which is standard for traffic studies done. Everybody uses 1% as we go out in the future. They asked for backup on 4 High Street. At the time we did the study, that they hadn't done a study, so we had estimated it. So they said, take a look at the estimates, and they were about the same as what we did, so there was really no issues there. So overall, we responded to every comment. They're very minor in nature. Your consultant needs to review them, but we don't see it really changing anything with regard to our study finding and conclusions.
In terms of comments, Fire has asked for a SWIP path analysis that shows sufficient access to each building, and TC Civil has asked for renderings, and that's still outstanding. But other than that, most things have been addressed or can be addressed through conditioning.
Okay. Great. All right. You want to go to the landscaping?
Mike Radner, our landscape architect.
I've got some handouts here that I can read a little bit small. That will hold it up.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, plus.
Thank you very much. Michael Radner with Radner Design. I'm going to just highlight the changes to the plans that we've made in response to some of your comments, and also, as Eric said, the analysis of the vegetation, particularly at the edges of the site. I'll start by, actually, I think So the revised landscape plan shows, I'll just start with the fencing. We had a discussion on fencing, and it was suggested that we do a cedar fence around the edges of the site to match what the senior center is doing, and that's exactly the revision that you see there on the left side. In fact, I stole the image that the other consulting team used, so we know that we're going to have the same type of fence. And then you can see on the top part of this plan, and then on the bottom part of this plan, there's some additional information as compared to last time On the top of the plan are the street side trees, and I had gone out and taken these pictures of the existing trees and also and gave my particular evaluation, and your tree warden also went out there at a separate time and commented. We happen to agree on the evaluation of these trees. So I basically cataloged them along the front of the site, and from right to the left is trees number 1 through 14 on this plan, and the trees that we're retaining on the site are on the right-hand side of the site. You can see that this, do you have that little pointer?
What numbers?
Those would be 1 through 5.
Okay.
That would be helpful. So this, what I'm tracing right here is that low stone retaining wall that's going to hold back the grade where the building is here. So because that wall is, we're able to design that so the wall kind of dives back towards into the site, we can retain these trees over here. They're mostly in good condition. This particular tree, number 5, is a particularly good-sized tree, and I don't see us having any interference with that. The next couple trees, 6, 7, and 8, so we have 6, 7, and 8, are either in decline or dying. So the fact that we're excavating with this retaining wall is certainly going to impact those. And tree number 6 is in the middle wall. It's already dead. There's no vegetation on it. So that's actually a hazard right now. It needs to come down fairly soon. And then the root systems of these trees are going to be definitely going to be impacted, but they are in decline and or dead. So we don't think that there's an issue with taking these down. I understand that the process of taking the tree down in the public way is a different process.
So the Board of Selectmen would hold a hearing. Again, the foreman just recommended we do that all at once we identify which trees.
Right, because those are public shade trees? Yeah. Okay.
Right, so then the next 2 trees, 9 and 10, are, number 10 is in the middle of the driveway there, so that's, unfortunately has to come down, and the one that's to the right of that is, there's just too much impact from the construction. Those trees are in good shape. But as I said, because of the limits of the construction, they're impacted. The trees on the left side of the driveway, I would leave to the senior center project. I don't, I can't speak to their impacts. But I did go and take a look at them, and they're in varying degrees of good health. The tree number, let's see, if you go to the, let's see. All right, so I think I'll just leave that at that point, unless you have any questions on this side of the site.
You said trees 1 through 5 are staying, but you have tree 2 listed as a hazard?
Yeah, I think that was the tree warden's comment, and I think because it's a little bit closer to the wires that are run along this side of Sutton Street, they were getting into the wires a little bit, so they need to be pruned, basically.
Oh, okay.
So it's an otherwise healthy tree.
Okay.
Okay. Now, looking at the back of the site, so Scott Cameron and his team, his survey team, had gone out and surveyed some existing trees that are either straddling the property line or on our side of the property. You saw on your site walk that the actual tree line kind of runs, the canopy line kind of runs along the back of the proposed building. That's pretty much the condition there. And then there's a series of trees behind that. Those are documented on a survey with the size, the type of the tree. It's a fairly dense stand of trees back there. And so what I've identified here is that this trees that have this symbol here with all these branching patterns here, those are existing trees to be retained. So all of these trees in here would be retained. And then if you look at the trees that have none of that branching, sort of the ghosted trees, those would come out. So if you're standing back there, you kind of look towards the back and look down the line of this tree line here, and the vision is that basically the first line of trees would need to come out because of the grading and the excavation that we're going to have in that area. Okay. If I go to the next plan. I've superimposed the proposed planting, and this is a hard plan to read. I think it's a good thing that it's a hard plan to read because it shows the density that we're proposing there. We initially came in with conifers along these edges at I think 6 to 8 foot height or 7 to 8 feet. You had suggested that we go the next size up, 8 to 10, and then we decided to come in and basically overwhelm you with size and go to 12 to 14 foot trees. We want to make this as easy a process as possible. So if you look at any nursery catalog, you'll see that 12 to 14 feet is basically the top tier, the top category in terms of size that you could find that's commercially available in quantity. So that's the plan in here. It's the number of trees have remained the same on the last plan. We just increased the size. And I think what we'll do is we've created some graphics pictures that were taken from some of these adjoining lots.
So on the plan here, it says you'll have 12 to 14.
Correct.
Conifers and also 18 to 20 foot shade trees?
Shade trees, right.
Do you know the numbers for each of those? Like how many?
There's my reduced plan is a little bit blurry. So I've got 68 conifers and 14 shade trees, 14 elms. The Valley Forge elm, which I'm proposing, is a large tree with a very large leaf and a thick branching pattern. It's a very hardy tree. It grows very quickly. I planted 20 or 30 of these in one of the, what's called one of the most urban neighborhoods in Springfield, in a tree pit. And within 2 years, they were, just exploding with growth. So I have a lot of confidence in that tree.
Okay. Some pictures.
Good evening. Last meeting, there was a question about what will it look like between the abutters and the property and whether they will see the buildings or not. So we tried to work out as accurate a possible way to represent that. Before I do, I wanted to point out something on the existing survey. Keep in mind, as you look at these pictures, I'll give you a minute here. These are all existing that will remain. These are the ones that will come out. So the ones with the dot in them, there's 2 here behind a clump of existing. There's 2 here behind a clump of existing. One here that is in an open area. There's 2 here behind a clump and 1 here behind a clump. And as far as you can tell at this point, there's one that could have a significant impact on a view path through here, but we'll show you in the pictures how that may end up looking. But I'd like to keep that in mind as we go through this. Were you able to get the PDFs that we sent earlier today?
Would that be?
You have those 51 and then 59 and 67.
Okay.
You have these.
Yeah.
Those 51. Oh, there 2 there? You can use these as well for you to see up close. Use for reference. You have it. So if we start at 51 Surrey Drive, which is this site right here, the two pictures we've taken, one roughly about right here on the site, and the other one turning a little bit and going in this direction. The first two pictures, the first picture is what it looks like currently with nothing behind the trees. You flip the page and the building is inserted in behind the existing trees. You can start to see it towards the right. The person in the image is about the height of the person taking the picture, and then the built line in the picture shows you the bottom of the building, the first floor line. The next picture is...
Just for clarification, so...
Pardon me?
This view 2, the view 02 with the little person is no added planting, no
Right.
subtracted planting.
Right.
It's just as is with the building.
Right, as if we just put the building up and didn't do anything behind the trees.
Okay.
Okay?
Alright.
As I go through this, it'll come clear. I try to do a step
I just wanna make sure we're-
process to help you
Yep.
understand the whole thing, but yep, that's correct.
Okay.
Then the next one is another view, the one more directly at the building with nothing added, just as it is today. There we go. She's got it there. If you can step through those, that would be great. So then the following picture is that same image with the building inserted in it, with nothing added. So at that point,
Hold on, let's slow down for a second. So,
Yeah, it's not, it's,
yeah, I want everyone to be able to see that.
nope, if we can
No,
go
that's not
back to
it.
51, just work your way through 51, and then I'll do the
Okay.
others.
you go backwards.
There, yep.
That's not it. Oh,
Yeah, scroll down.
There
sorry
we go.
about that.
Perfect, thank you.
So go to the next one. Okay,
So
so
then
that's
the
first
view,
picture.
the
Yeah.
view one we're on now, we took that one to show examples of how this would work if we had the tree and buffer behind it. So as you flip through the first page, the next one has the white images on it. If you keep going on the screen there, that one there. That represents what was added. So you can get a real good picture of the plantings. I want to point out, these aren't exactly the plants. We found ones as close as we could to represent that. And Michael verified that they're good representation of what would be occurring. Flip the next page and you'll see the purple. That's what is infilled in around the existing shrubbery that's there now, and shows you how it would fill in some of the blanks on that existing plantings. The last one is the actual plantings in place. The reason I did the first two is because when I looked at this, I had a hard time finding them myself. So I asked us to do the white ones to show you what really was added, then the purple one to show you where it fills in, and then the last one gives you a representation of how that would look. So as you can see, it starts to fill in around the second floor level. Then we thought we'd project ahead and go to the next image is the white plants as they would be after 5 years of growth. And see they start to pop up into that third floor level. The purple, again, shows where they fill in the blanks areas between the existing shrubbery and trees. And then the last one, again, would be the 5-year growth as it would be projected to appear after adding the buffer on the site. As you can see also with this one, that the fourth floor is obscured with much of the existing tree that are in the area. Next, we'll go to 59. Oh, you have some already? Did you have it? Okay. So if we step through this one, again, the first three pictures are the existing picture with nothing added behind it. Next picture is the building inserted into the picture with the first floor line represented and how you would see it with the existing trees and shrubbery. Another image turned a little bit to the left. This is actually incidentally on the deck back here of this house, so that's why it's elevated. You can see the people in the picture give you a bit better idea of where eye height would be from the ground. View 2 with the building inserted into it, and then view 1 with the original picture with nothing added, and then the building in it, that's the one we use to add the shrubbery to it. So as you can see, there's already some existing buffering going on with the existing trees. Flip to the next page, and you have the white plants showing what was added and how they would be represented on the other side. Purple again, where it would infill, and as you can see, it's doing some work, but not needed as much as the first one we just showed. And then the last of that would be how it would look as shrubbery. Then the next set of pictures are the 5-year growth. They jump up, get up into the upper levels of the building. Purple again, showing where they infill the voids in the existing shrubbery. And then the last one, how it would be represented after a 5-year growth. So then we can go a little bit further to the right. We're calling it 67, but I was going to point out something. This one. So, this one.
Thank you.
Do that one too if you want. So this one, these pictures were taken right around this large tree, more a little bit to the right. That's why we're calling it 67, but technically it's on 59. I'll point out that if you were actually on 67, these trees here would add to the buffer view in this direction. So it really wasn't useful to take a picture from here. Show me the picture here, and then there's one right through the tree. There's a playground swing set right behind this tree that gives you a point of reference behind it. You see in the pictures. So again, the first one's the clump, a big tree that does a lot of work for us already. Then with the building in it, you can see a little bit maybe on the left. Next picture is a little bit to the right of that large tree with the swing set on your left. First one without, with the building. The grade drops a little bit on this, towards this area. So you can see the gentleman on the right, first 4 lines about at his forehead. So everything a little bit more elevated. View 2 is the one we used to work with to show how it would work. It had the more open area, was in front of that large tree. So you can see if you were in the area of the swing set, how this would work. So again, the first one's with the building inserted. See, there's some openings there. You would see it's behind the large tree. White shrubbery added, covering the first and second floors. Purple, again, filling in between the trees, and then what it would look like at time of planting. And as you go to the last pictures, 5-year growth gets up, starting to approach into the 4th floor level. Purple showing how it infills, and then the last picture shows how it would be after the 5-year growth with the shrubbery. Any questions?
Again, where is the swings, where the swings exactly?
What show up on this, but it's right behind this large tree, it's right in here. Actually, really study the shadow. There's a picture from here, and right behind this tree. But from the house,
Right, so that's where you get the most direct read.
That's the backyard of
view to
59, right?
Pardon?
That's the backyard of 59?
59, yes. Their site, you can see, goes back in here. So it's their site is behind this tree. 67 is over here. Some trees, existing vegetation already on it.
The new trees and plantings that are going in, are those ones that will lose their leaves, or are they dense?
Which one?
The new plant, the
The
new,
lower ones would be,
I don't know the right word for that.
So sorry. There's the 68 conifers, those are evergreen. So they're needle leaf evergreens, is a combination of spruce and firs, which has, like pine, things with
Yep.
pine cones.
Yep.
and white pines in there,
Okay,
which are a little bit softer look, but they get a little more vegetation on top
okay.
to fill in. So we have sort of multi-levels of vegetation filling in to make as green a wall as we possibly can.
Okay.
But the vast majority of these are evergreen, yes.
actually, it looks to me the last one is the one that is where the buildings are most prominent. And is that because that's the one spot where you get to see the whole length of the building?
The last picture we worked with?
Yeah.
It's also where you're the closest to it.
Oh, I see, okay.
Nails down, existing, goes out in here,
Yeah, okay.
so that's why.
Go ahead.
Sorry, flip it. So that would be filled tree, this area here, so it's getting, added buffer. Anything else?
There's also a little bit of an art to this when we're into construction, that if there's certain views that, if turns out to be a gap somewhere that's, a view is created, we can position trees and, to help mitigate that.
What's the proposed height of the mature trees?
So the conifers, the evergreens, as I said, there's 3 different species, and a white pine can get 100 feet high. A spruce and a fir can get 40 feet high. So they're fairly significant. It takes a long time for white pine to get 100 feet high, but they grow fairly quickly. We calculate 12 inches a year in vertical growth. It's a basic industry standard that we use. And the elms will probably, can get 40 or 50 feet high as well, and relatively fast growing.
Okay. So Eric, is there anything else you want to present? And then we'll take members of anyone who wants to make comment or ask questions.
Scott, did you have anything you want to present?
No. Yeah, just other than we did receive the response back from Horsley Witten. The only additional changes were a couple of notes they wanted us to add to the plan. We did respond to all the TEC comments, haven't received the response from them yet, but we responded to everything.
I think this was really the main focus.
Yeah. Great. Members of the board have anything else that they want to ask questions on or comments on at this time? Or if not, we'll see if anyone public wants to say anything. So why don't we do that now? So you can come up, please state your name, sit, tell us where you live. Everything should come through the board, so if you have comments, make them to us. If you have questions, ask them to us, and we'll get the best person to answer for them. Great.
Evening, Patrick Duffy, 59 Surrey Drive. I'm the abutter that lives down here with the pool. First, thanks for coming and doing the site visit. We appreciate that and taking a look from our yard. We encourage you to come back in November when there are no leaves and see just how little buffer the woods that are there now, how little buffer they give. I had a couple questions. For the buildings that were added in these pictures, what was the height of those buildings used? And for the calculation of the new tree growth, for the new trees that are going to be planted, was anything taken into consideration the fact that they're going to be on the north side of some very large existing trees, and thus they will get less sun and perhaps may not grow as well?
So the question one is when they inserted the building, what heights did they use? And question two is what went into the calculation of the height when we saw the 5 years out. Okay, can we get someone from your group to answer those?
Sure, I think Rob, you can use that.
Great.
We took the 3-story rendering and added a floor to it and inserted in as accurately as possible to represent the true height of the building.
So using the 4-story?
4-story building. Pardon me?
Is it 52 feet?
It's 42 to the eave, which is what you'd see in here. The roof, the peak is past that, so it's another 13 feet, so it's just under the 55-foot height.
Okay. And then the question?
And on the height of the trees, so north is actually on the right side of this plan. It's coming towards me. So this is a western exposure for these trees, so they do get half of the day in sunlight.
And so to calculate that 5 years, what did you use to figure that out?
I mean, like I said, it's an industry standard of 12 inches a year. I mean, I don't,
So that's
we don't get into that kind of detail. If it's a few hours less of sunlight, honestly, I can't tell you if it's going to grow a few inches less a year. It's an average. The 12 inches a year is an average.
So that's what you used?
Yeah.
Okay. Jeff, any other follow-ups?
Yes, thank you for the answers. So my wife and I attended the ZBA meeting last week, and a couple issues came up that we were not aware of that I'm not sure if you guys are aware of either, but we had some concerns about. The first was that the plan for this donation of the land to the town that Andrew Mailer presented at town meeting and the town approved apparently has changed. With the $600,000 purchase of the Sutton Street, the property at the corner of Sutton and Surrey, which is now going to be used as the parking area for the senior center, the developer is under the impression that the town is just going to take over that financial obligation of the $600,000, either in an outright purchase or a 20-year lease or something like that. But this is a very different plan than what was approved at town meeting. And at the zoning meeting, some of the members were concerned that maybe because this has changed so dramatically, this should go back before the town meeting to be approved again. So there was discussion like that. So it seems like things are still up in the air about this.
To be honest, it sounds to me like the zoning board is making it seem like it's up in the air, but it really isn't. Jean, can you tell us a little bit about?
So when the hearing opened, we talked about that one-story drive lot. It was a progression of this development. The land being donated is the same square footage as was discussed at town meeting. Town meeting had a conceptual plan. We've certainly gone through many iterations and come up with this that we think is the most viable in terms of 81 dedicated parking spaces and a 13,600 square foot building situated in a way that provides for the proper circulation. That being said, we're before you because the provisions in the zoning bylaw allow for the planning board to issue a special permit for satellite parking. All four of these lots are owned by Sutton Street Redevelopment. At some point in time, should everything be approved, there's a certain portion going to be donated to the town. This last lot, there's provisions that allow for the Board of Selectmen to enter into a lease if they so choose to. None of this can be constructed if they don't choose to enter into a lease or go back to town meeting to purchase land. The $600,000 that Mr. Duffy is referring to is what Mr. Loth explained, that they purchased land. There's no lease agreement at this time. There's nothing in writing. There's provisions in place that allow for it.
It seemed to me at town meeting that there was a concept of the senior center and multifamily and doing it as a private-public partnership with the idea that that we'd go through this whole process of figuring out the number of buildings and how their sizes and locations and this whole site plan review. Frankly, I think the ZBA's
In this
might be a little
layout-
bit off course.
He's right, this layout goes back to the former town manager being here in January, February, when we started conceptually
Right.
designing this site. So we've been working on it from that time.
Right, so after town meeting said, yeah, go ahead with making this, try to make this happen, and you get the whole plans, and the driveway plans have changed to, and these plans have changed because of comments that people have made, hopefully for the better. I mean, that's the idea. So appreciate folks going and attending all these various meetings, but I don't see that as a concern, at least for this board.
Okay. So what would happen if the selectmen decided that they did not want to obligate the town for the lease cost of this new lot?
Nothing gets built unless a
You can't
lease
build it.
gets entered. So nothing gets built.
Okay. The other thing that came up at the meeting I wasn't aware of was that the developer is asking for a rather large variance for the floor area ratio. The zone, it is zoned currently is set up for a 0.75, and they're asking for it to be increased to 1.2, a 50% increase, which is a very large increase, in my opinion. And the board didn't take any action on it yet, but it seems like that large a variance should have a corresponding proportional size of discussion. If the developer is trying to significantly change the standards for the town for this lot. So I don't know how long those discussions will take, but I just wanted to let you guys know that I think it's an unreasonably large variance to ask for.
I mean, I think that question has come up in front of us in an indirect manner because we're looking at the number of units, the size of the building, the location of the building, the height of the building, which is sort of another way of saying the same thing. So I think it's been something to address, but your point is a fair point.
Okay, thank you.
The ZBA did continue, so we do have another meeting with the ZBA.
Mr. Chairman, if I might speak to that last comment. Mr. Duffy's right, so, however, if you looked at the entire site, including the 2 extra lots, overall, the senior center and the housing that we're proposing combined is actually 0.68, so we do meet the spirit, we're less than the 0.75. However, once we carve the land off for the senior center, he's right, we're over the 0.75, we're at 1.2. And I guess where we've been working collaboratively on a public-private partnership, we felt if we were under that 0.75 for the whole site combined, but that is why we're there asking for variance.
I mean, to some degree, the approach that you're taking of carving off the lot is something that probably in the long term is a better way to do it, to have 2 separate owners, but technically you wouldn't have to do it. You can keep it all as a single lot and then you wouldn't be in compliance. And I know some of the other variances that exist are technical variances because you carved the lot out, but if you didn't carve the lot out, they just kept it all as one, you would have a variance. So.
And the number of units is consistent with town meeting, so it's still 136 units. That is
Right, so the issue with the variance is trying to make the public-private partnership happen. If this developer just built a senior center and these apartments, you wouldn't need variance, right? If it was all one lot.
If it was all one.
If it was all one lot, if we just all consider this one lot, you wouldn't need a variance.
That was one of the discussions we had probably 2 years ago now was, should it all be done with cross easement accesses and everything? I think it made a lot more sense for the town. It was their desire to own the underlying land that the building sat on. So.
Okay. All right, great. Anyone else have any questions, comments?
Hi, Lynn Langton, 10 Surrey Drive. I want to thank you guys for coming over to do the site visit. It was really nice to see you there and to see things from our perspective. I have a couple of questions about the senior center. I wasn't clear on what was happening with trees 11, 12, 13, and 14.
It's my understanding that those trees were proposed to be removed and that those are public shade trees, so that there would have to be a separate process for that. So there's a whole process for taking down any public shade trees that has to go through the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
I believe, is that right?
There is for public shade.
And that it was 11, 12, 13, and 14 were proposed to be removed?
So this came in late this afternoon. I haven't been able to match that with what I walked the site with.
I think that's what I thought someone said earlier. Oh, we don't know. Oh, okay, so we don't know, okay. He didn't speak to 11, 12, 13,
So
and
the
14.
one in the entrance, I can go off of that.
I think our consultant said that the ones that are directly in front of the senior center would be up to your landscape
Right.
architect.
Oh, okay.
So the one in the entrance, the next one over towards the senior center, it's a healthy tree. It has a long leader, is how the senior foreman described it. That leader could be cut. It's a long leader and it's low, so could that impact the tree? He's not certain, but he did say that one was healthy.
Okay.
The next one over, he has as declining health. The next one over as healthy.
Okay.
And next one's declining. The next one is healthy and trim, so.
So do any of those have to go as part of this decision? Or is it just a public tree issue?
Some of them straddle the line, some are on off-property and some are on the street.
I would comment that I hadn't seen those trees listed, but I'm the architect for the senior center. I do know that the one, number 11, I believe it will stay. 13 and 14, I think you said 13 is declining. 14 is currently in an area which the ground is being raised with a retaining wall, and whether we can put that retaining wall around that. But the root coverage underneath the canopy extends out. That's an oak, it's a little bit deeper. Am I right in saying that? And I want that to be reviewed by my landscape architect. I believe 13 won't make it, and 12 is questionable. We need to review that, and we certainly will get back to you on those. In fact, I would love to get a copy of that plan so I can review that. Thank you.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, thank you. Just something to keep in mind as a neighbor in this neighborhood is that the airport is across the street, and there is a lot of airplane noise that the trees help block. And also, there's jet fuel that streams into our neighborhood. So any trees that you can save would be really appreciated, because trees really help absorb the carbon dioxide and the excessive amount of nitrous oxides that the aircraft put out.
Which, Monica, I wonder if you could go back. This is a little bit of going back in time, but you know, there's the storage units.
Yes.
When they were approved, they were supposed to be a
Thank you.
cover, and
Thank you.
I think it's open-ended, and we probably, you know, missed that, keeping up with it. But I did, when I walked by myself, I noticed that. It was one of the first things I noticed, that whether it's part of, they may be under an obligation to replace trees that passed away, but even beyond that, we ought to put some heat in them to boost up the tree cover there, because it's pretty crappy.
I'll check their decision just to see if it was a requirement and, you know, what.
I actually thought it was.
Yeah, I mean, I remember it was, and usually we do it as an open-ended decision, have to be replaced at any point in time. And clearly, some of them lived, some of them died, you can tell, because there's a few tall ones and then there's a bunch of spindly ones. So, you know, we have to go back and check on that. I think it would improve the value for them, as well as certainly the aesthetics for people who live there, so.
That would really be appreciated. And then just kind of a couple extra questions. For the senior center, is there going to be a charging station? Has that been thought about? I just thought I'd throw that out there, because if you're doing utilities.
If requested, certainly, we're doing that right now in 2 other senior centers that we're working on, putting in charging stations for electric cars.
Okay, cool.
It's not a lead project, but that's a.
Do you think for the multifamily, would you anticipate, I mean, I guess in developments, are you guys generally doing that?
We currently have 2 in front of the senior center now, so
Yeah.
I would anticipate.
Move them over.
And
Or
we're building
more
in
to-
Newburyport right now, and we're putting 2 outside. I think we're putting 4 inside, but
In
we're
the
running
garage?
extra conduit, because I think it may not be 2 or 5 years from now. It seems 10 or 20 years out. It might be 50% of the people. So
Right.
we're making sure that we can accommodate them in the future.
Great.
Okay, and then another question has to do with any of the trees that are taking down. Has anybody looked into ecosystem services where they actually put an economic value on trees that are taken down over their lifetime? And there are some studies where developers will make up money for the trees that are taken down and what they do. And then I did notice that in in the master plan that the town has on historic and natural resources goal 4, to protect the quality of the natural resources, it gives some ideas of what to do. And one of them actually stated to create an open space improvement fund that developers can pay into. And I was just wondering if that had been acted upon yet?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. That's
Good.
all I had. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, so what's next stage, next steps?
So
We need
we're,
to- oh, sorry.
oh, do you want to go?
From our perspective, we need to wrap up some of the review comments, and like I said, I anticipate by the 3rd of September, we should have that.
Okay, Eric?
I think we'll be done with all the technical comments as well by the 3rd. So unless there are new things that come up, we'll
Okay.
probably present to most everything we have.
So
one other housekeeping.
Yeah.
The multifamily requires Conservation Commission review.
Yeah.
And I believe August 28th, they'll be opening that, so again, just prior to the third meeting.
When do you go to
And-
ZBA?
Did we ever resolve that issue where the watershed line was?
Not resolved in terms of, I know that there was a comment made that it drains towards the lake, but the zoning map, the line is very clear, it runs along the
Yeah, I know
backside.
that, but I mean, like in the field, the idea was that, the zoning line all through the town is, it's so long that you would defer to the reality of the situation. But I guess my question is, does any of it actually drain? Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a couple of factors here. Gene and I went through the regulations extensively, read it. Every time I pull them out, I got to reread them. They're very thorough. And we've done several watershed special permits, over the years here. So the way it's written is you're either in the district or you're not. There's no language in it that says it can expand beyond the district for tributary area. It's, are you in or not? So there's a portion of the site here that is just in on the end, and the only work in that area is grading, kind of site work related stuff, but doesn't qualify as a use. And the connection point is more than 400 feet away from a wetland, which is one of the special condition setback areas. So we're connecting the drainage to the municipal system greater than 400 feet. So we don't trigger any of the general discharge zones or the general zone or the no discharge zone requirements, which are both 400 feet from the wetlands. When Horsley Witten did their review, they had asked us to take a look at the outlets to the system. So the system, I don't know if this will show it, kind of. So you have China Blossom here. So everything on the site now, and really the big one we're concerned about is a 100-year storm. Everything, and this is how we responded to Horsley Witten, everything in a 100-year storm is more or less going to go straight across the site. It's going to bypass any catch basins, anything in the street, across China Blossom and down to Osgood Street, and then, it's going to top over the catch basins and go out to the wetlands. So we had a close look at that, and one thing we're doing with the development, by building all this infrastructure, it's all designed for a 100-year storm event. And we have low points on the system instead of flow-through points, which is how it is now. So we're actually going to capture and treat and try to recharge the vast majority of all the site runoff before going out to the town system. So we're going to take a lot of burden of overland flow off of the China Blossom site, Osgood, and then directly into the wetland. We also performed at the request of Horsley Witten a site walk to try and locate the outfalls from the municipal system. And everything comes down in the street, the GIS mapping that the town has, and it's Mass DOT, it indicates there's multiple discharge points where it comes down to catch basins and then goes directly out to the wetlands, which go out to the reservoir. So we went out, there's a tremendous amount of growth out there, very heavy poison ivy, thorns. So we hacked, I went out there myself. I don't know how I didn't get poison ivy, but we hacked through and we chased where we couldn't find a pipe because of the growth in there, but we did chase the topography and followed it down to where it would reach a wetland. And we did that in 3 different locations. And in no location did I find any erosion in the wetland that would be cause for concern. That's where we can have problems because it can be washing out. But we couldn't find any evidence of erosion. Everything seemed to be fine and very well established vegetation. So we did respond to Horsley Witten in that regard, and they accepted that comment in the letter received today.
The wetland in jurisdiction is an isolated wetland?
The wetland in jurisdiction here is an isolated wetland. We did receive that negative determination from the commission. So that's here in the back of the property. It has a local buffer zone, but it is not directly tributary to this system. And again, it falls outside of the buffer.
I guess I would say thank you for the commentary, because, I think that the fact that you said it's within 400 feet, I think that the fact that it's 400 feet, that means it doesn't trigger some of the, even, let's assume it all is in the watershed. It doesn't trigger any of the dimensional issues and requirements that we have, and very clearly, you've addressed, I think, the broader issues of your discharge and everything and so forth. So I think in my mind, the 2 fundamental purposes of seeing whether you're wetland or not, you've met those. So, okay.
And I will add, and I'm not supposed to keep talking after I answer the question, we're going to, because you should know this as well. We designed the stormwater system, the water quality component, so the cleanup of the stormwater, to the higher treatment level. So we are providing that treatment regardless of needing the watershed special permit, so we're still complying with the spirit and intent of those regulations. So instead of the basic, the basic treatment, which would be a lesser standard, we went full treatment.
So it looks like the ZBA doesn't meet until September 10th, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so I plan to have a pretty full discussion amongst the board on September 3rd, and maybe a draft decision for the meeting after that. I mean, it would be hard to vote on a project that doesn't have the approved variances.
You could either condition it or just carry it to the 17th, that would be fine.
Okay.
I mean, I think this is a case where you want them to make the decision first. Some minor technical variances you can condition, but I
Yep,
think.
I agree.
Yeah.
So for the next meeting, would it be fair to say that if we just submit documentation that all peer review has been, or is there any more information you need?
No, I don't think so. I think we need to have a full discussion, and give you guys insight on what we'd like to potentially see, if we were to condition this, and then see what the ZBA does, and then if the plans don't change, then we can go.
By
as
then,
is.
we'll have a good read on the Concom.
Right.
They will have met, I think, again in September prior to the 17th, so.
Okay, great. So continued till September 3rd.
Thank you.
All right, Monica, we do have one more, right?
Yes, we have a discussion item. It's 0 Great Pond Road, also known as Lot 3. It's a common driveway.
Okay.
Bring that up.
I didn't realize.
Okay. Do you want to tell us about that? Or
Yes. You wanna come
Someone
up,
can tell us
or-
about it?
Okay. Well, I guess I have that. And I'll give some background, because there's some lengthy background with this. So, Sue Pila, she's representing 0 Great Pond Road, Lot 3. And this is related to a common driveway permit that was initially issued by the planning board in 1999. This common driveway special permit was issued, and the intent was to service lots 3 and 4, and I'll bring up that plan. Make it a little bigger. So on the bottom, you'll see lot 3. Over here, to the right, you'll see lot 4.
Yep.
The common driveway was permitted on the basis that lot 2, which is located on the lower left, would be serviced by a separate driveway. And the separated driveway would be created by installing a 3-foot landscape strip. The driveway accesses lot not through street frontage, but has access other than legal frontage. No record of a recorded decision for the common driveway exists in the planning files. We weren't able to locate it at the Northern Essex Registry of Deeds. And one of the requirements was a copy of a recorded decision was to be forwarded to the planning department.
Who was the applicant for this?
So the applicant was Dr. Scully, if I'm not mistaken,
Oh.
for this.
Across the street from the yellow house, the old.
Yeah, so it's further down the Great Pond Road. It's where now I remember what it is. It's, yeah.
Down.
Where is this
And,
down?
So it's
and
over.
there were 2 existing houses that they built there. And the lot that I picked, I've been a Realtor for 40 years, was the middle one that's set up on a knoll.
So you can see it here.
Came down to the town hall, I went to an architect, I had a 5,700 square foot house, all proposed. I came to the town hall, and I wanted to put a pool in, and they said there shouldn't be any problem. In the meantime, we lived on Coachman's Lane, and my mother was coming to, wanted my mother to come to live with us. Dr. Palermo's house went on the market. It had a bedroom on the first floor, and I said, I think I'll just buy that one, and I'll just keep this lot. Well, I guess I should have mowed the driveway, this is what they're telling me, for 15 years when I owned it. But now some growth has gone in the driveway, and the footprint of the house would have to shrink. In addition to that, they said it wouldn't be safe for a fire truck. Well, there's a house before mine and a house after mine. So if those two houses were permitted, why have I been paying taxes for 15 years and now they're giving me trouble to put a house on the lot that I bought? It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's like a little horseshoe that comes in. There's a house here and a house here. And this is my lot, which is the nicest lot of the three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's vaguely coming back to me, and I think this was a whole situation, we had problems with what they did originally, and.
The planner at the time cautioned them on this.
Yeah, I mean,
But how did they get an occupancy
What is it, now, what is the issue from your perspective at this point?
Well, I'm trying to, I'm 77 years old, I'm trying to say, I bought a lot of property in town, and I've been selling some of it off. We ended up not building a house here, we just bought a house on a street.
Right, so you have a lot that arguably is buildable, I mean, you know.
We thought it was, we went and spent $17,000 for
at
the
this
house
point,
plans.
Why do you think it's not, I guess?
Because I've been talking to Monica, and I had someone that was interested in putting a house there, and we ran into a roadblock because they said the fire trucks might not be able to get down. Now, if you look at the plan.
So Monica, what is making it either non-buildable, or what's the holdup right now?
It's actually involving the common driveway, which wasn't constructed in accordance where it is. It's not a common driveway right now. Currently, it's a single driveway. It doesn't have that 3-foot strip, which was a condition that would then, because coming off of Great Pond Road, if you look on the plan, it's a single lane going in. There's no divider. So as of right now, you have I guess this would be technically a driveway that's currently servicing 2 lots. The max number of lots allowed on a common driveway is 2. Also, there were some safety concerns from the fire department. They want an analysis to find out if their truck could actually safely access.
So where do you build on this one?
So
Is that, where is it that you want to build the house?
Well, you know where it comes out to, what's his name, Elliot? It comes out to Winter Street. If you walked up the lot and went out, you would get to Winter Street. I actually had a listing there about 5 years ago.
This is like where St. Lucia's family are, right?
Yes, that part of Winter Street. If you walked up, so if a fire truck ever had to come, the town has a right-of-way, like in back here, to get to their service or whatever they get to. If there was a fire, they could just go in Winter Street and go into this lot, you see?
Are we talking about
Can you
this
tell us
lot
can you
here?
just tell us where the proposed house is going to be? Where do you want to?
Yeah, right
See this
here. I have
top lot here?
I marked it on my plan, right here, if you'd like to
Yes,
take a look at it.
So, and the house that has the red circle, how's that access to that?
That's accessed off of this
the
driveway
proposed,
off
and this comes
of
right out to Winter Street,
Great
and
Pond
the town
Road. So
has
it hooks around, it's kind of like a
easement
snake
over
here.
So if
So
there
if
ever
you can
was
see
a
where the
fire,
hand
it'd
is,
go right on Winter
it
Street.
follows here.
Gosh.
Yeah. And basically, we're trying to figure out how do we clean up a permit that was never
I think we
recorded.
gotta go back to the start. I gotta go back and look at this because I think
Yeah.
there's more to the story than I even remember. I think we were trying to fix an existing problem at that time because they had done some stuff they were supposed to do.
Yeah, there's
no way to do a driveway just off of Winter
Winter
Street?
It's all done.
Can a driveway go off?
There's
Winter?
supposed to be lights. The lights weren't constructed. The berm wasn't in place. At one point, the original developer asked for a bond release, and the board said no because the berm wasn't constructed in order to create the common light.
Asked me that question question, why couldn't you just come in this way?
Yeah.
Who was the planner then?
For some reason.
Heidi was the initial
They say you
planner,
can't.
the one that was involved in 1999, the one that strongly cautioned about the creation of this common driveway.
Yeah.
I included in your packet correspondence stating that at the time, she
Called
felt
through the
it
whole
was
time.
setting a bad precedent because initially you would have basically a driveway
Right.
with a thin strip servicing 3 houses when the common
Right,
driveway
right. I
services
mean,
2.
yeah,
So the
I mean,
compromise was that
I think we
3-foot
have to
strip.
go back to the start.
So, yeah, so how do we-
I
how do we
remember
fix
a little
this?
bit, but my
Yeah.
memory's a little bit hazy, but
Yeah, it was in 2003.
So how do we fix this?
So there's a couple
What
of
steps do we have to take?
There's a couple of options.
Yeah.
To be honest, this is a first. I've discussed this with engineering to see if they've had anything
Yeah.
like this. And so somehow an analysis needs to happen, and usually that happens during if there was a special permit for a common driveway, that would allow for a full review. Somehow you have 2 houses that were constructed. There's no record as to how this happened. So basically what planning would like is some sort of full analysis to figure out how to construct this in a way that doesn't set a bad
I mean,
preference, honors.
Well, we
I
need,
think
Yeah.
we gotta do some fact checking before we go, I mean, it's like, you gotta see what years the building permits were pulled and everything on these lots.
Yeah.
I do know that the guy that is at the end that has to go by my lot to get to his, I was told that I had to get a special driveway surface that was porous, and it was a different, not just a hot top driveway. I knew that from the town. But then I went a couple years after that, and his was paved. He came to the meeting when we had a meeting, and he said he got permission, but I don't think he ever produced it. Did he, Monica?
The issue is he has an open certificate of compliance with conservation, which they're having trouble closing out. I think it's connected to that. So it says, let me see, a positive determination of applicability was issued in February of 2019. The issues for the commission included an inability to confirm a wetland delineation. Let me see. They
So-
said there was a lack of a stockpile area. There were issues with the construction details.
so this is, Monica, this is what I would ask. I would ask if we could maybe put this out for maybe a month. If you can get as much information for us as possible about the history of these permits.
Yeah.
And what was built and when. And then a couple of suggestions from engineering, DPW, about possible ways to, just like physical ways that this could be solved.
Right.
Then we can try to figure out what the best mechanism is. I mean, is there a driveway off of Winter Street that could be built? Is
Right.
there, is there a way to improve this common driveway so
Right.
that we could allow for a common driveway amongst the 3?
Right.
What possible steps could be done so that this,
Right, and we
Could
looked at Winter Street, just to give you an idea, we went and looked at, it was myself, it was the developer, which was interested, and engineering. And at the end of Winter Street is a 1-lot subdivision road, which is not built to town roadway standards. So there was a concern coming off of a non-standard subdivision road. How do you create a proper, essentially a roadway from there? So there's still a lot out in the open. Fire, DPW, conservation would all like to see a thorough review of that. So I don't know if that means applying for another common driveway permit and doing that, or.
Let's just get all the facts together before we decide what the right solution is. You know, I'm not sure I know yet.
Okay.
But what's perplexing to me is I think one of these properties has sold twice. So how do they transfer title if there's an issue?
Right.
Good question.
And that's some of the mystery we've
If we
all
knew
been
the answer,
working
we
on.
wouldn't be having this discussion.
okay, let's see what we can find out. And we'll definitely try
Yeah,
to work with you to see what we
ideally,
can
I
do.
think, I mean, if something could happen, we could go in Winter Street, but we explored that possibility, and we were told No.
Okay, well, let's gather the facts, then we'll see what we can do.
Okay.
Okay,
Would you like this, like the,
can we come back the second meeting in September?
okay, the 17th?
And maybe you and I can just talk about it? or
Yeah.
John can, fill me in, fill John in about some of the details, and then you can search your memory banks and we can try to come up with a solution.
I remember there's a lot of history.
Okay. All right.
And I was also told I could put a pool in, because we wanted to have a pool. So the house we ended up buying was a cape, which we were going to build, and it had a pool. So we bought it, my mother moved in, she stayed
She
there
got
for,
something out of it.
until she was almost 100.
Wow.
and I still had the lot. Now I'm trying to tear down.
Can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Johnson, yes?
Aaron Preston, yes.
Yes.
Kate Barnese, yes.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for allowing me to participate this way. I know it was a lot of effort by all involved.
Thank you to our BevChem. All right, we'll see you in September, bud.